Hello, I'm Bill Cox. In this video, I'd like to show you how Passgedfree can help you answer the writing questions on the GED Science Test, the GED Social Studies Test, and the GED Language Arts Test. I begin by going to passgedfree.com, and here are links to all four websites, one for each test. I'm going to bring up the three non-math websites quickly here. And I'm doing this in a way that will let us look at them side by side here in this video. In each of these tests, 15 to 20% of the points come from the writing questions. But the writing questions are more important than that because so many people are anxious about them. On the science test, there are two writing questions. Here's the science website. Write one and write two. On the social studies test, there is one writing question and there is one writing section. On the language arts test, there is one writing question, so there is one write section in language arts. Now, the four writing questions on the three tests are different, but they share two characteristics. First, you know what the questions will look like. And second, you know that your answers will be graded by a computer. Now, the computer cannot evaluate the quality of your writing. All it can do is look for keywords and phrases in your response. So to get at least 3/4 of the points on these writing questions, and that's the objective here, you have to satisfy the computer, not an English teacher. That's kind of sad, but it's true. To satisfy the computer, all three websites use the Finish the Sentences system. Let's go to the first writing question in science to see how that works. In step 1, you type 7 unfinished sentences into the answer box. These 7 unfinished sentences are relevant to the particular question, kind of question you'll get in the science test. You have to memorize these unfinished sentences because no notes are permitted on the test, but using these particular unfinished sentences, there are actually 7 here in 4 groups, will ensure first that you will answer the right question, second that your response will be well organized, and third that you will include enough keywords and phrases to satisfy the computer. Now, if you look at social studies, and in the right section of that website, you'll see a different set of 7 questions. And if you look at the language arts test, you'll see, again, in the right section of that website, a longer set of unfinished questions. There are 14 of them here. That's a lot to memorize, but there is a pattern to them, and that makes it easier. So in step 1 of the Finish the Sentences system, you enter these unfinished sentences into the answer box. In step 2, you read the documents which are provided with each question and then use those documents to finish the sentences. So here, for example, in the science website is an example in which the bold-faced words here are the original unfinished sentences you've typed into the answer box, and the words in regular type are the words that you might add to finish the sentences after you have studied the documents which have been supplied. So if you clean that up, your answer would look something like this. Now, in language arts, you have another example of step 2 of the method. And here again, the bold-faced words are the original unfinished sentences. The regular type words are what you would add to finish the sentences after you read the documents. Now, if you clean that up, it would look something like this. Now, on the language arts and social studies test, you have dedicated periods of 45 and 20 minutes to answer the writing questions where you can't do anything else. So there, it makes sense to use step 3 of the system and to revise the drafts you get from the first 2 steps of the finish the sentences system. And when you do that, the answer might look something like this. Now, in particular, and the websites emphasize this, you can add transition words, words like however, therefore, nevertheless. The computer looks for words like these, believe it or not, to try to judge the quality of your writing. Now, on the science test, unlike the other 2 tests, any time you spend writing is not available to answer the other short questions on the test. And since each writing question there is only worth about 3 times as much as a short question, it doesn't make sense to spend much time revising your answers to the writing question in step 3 on the science test. Now, the second question on the science test is actually the hardest of the 4, because in this question you have to finish the sentences not from a document but from your own prior knowledge about how to test a hypothesis. That's what the question will ask. Now, in the science section of this same website, there is a page with lessons and information. About how to do that, so that to help you answer this question. Now, for each of the writing questions you've seen, all 4 of them, there are examples. Some of the examples come from the 3 free practice tests from GED Testing Service. The rest of the examples come from Cracking the GED Test, a test preparation book from Princeton Review. We use it because its questions are like the ones on the real test. If you can't find a copy, you can buy one from Amazon for about $17. And so, as you have seen on each of the 3 non-math tests, the Finish the Sentences system helps you first to answer the right question, second, to organize your answers well, and third, to be sure you include enough keywords and phrases to satisfy the computer. Using this system, you should be able to get at least 3/4 of the points on the 4 writing questions in these 3 tests. Now, if you can also get 3/4 of the short questions on those tests, and if you can also get 150 points on the math test, you can pass all 4 tests using Passgedfree to help you and get on with your life. Now, in the intro section of each website, there is a page which makes it easy for you to share your comments and suggestions with me. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching, and good luck on the tests.